As we hurtle towards the last quarter of the year, many people will be thinking about things such as bonuses and end-of-year planning and end-of-year appraisals. And in fact, this is often the time when people begin to seriously consider whether they should stay with their current firm or move on. And if they do decide to move on, then management teams are going to have to then do hiring processes in order to replace those people, especially the valuable people that they might lose. So in this short video, I'm going to be talking about a number of reasons why people choose to leave a firm. This is based on my 22 years in executive search, all the years that I've been doing career coaching, and also several reports and studies that I've followed as well. Hello, my name is Stephen Wright. I'm a career coach here at Career Mentor, and we help high-performing financial services professionals make their next smart career move. So I think the first reason that comes to mind is feeling undervalued or not recognized. We all know that it feels great when we are recognized for the work that we're doing, for the contribution that we're making to our colleagues and to our team. And so when you have a situation where someone is not being recognized and they might end up feeling that they're just working in some sort of a vacuum without any feedback at all, and that therefore what they're doing simply doesn't matter or doesn't count or is not in any way positively contributing to the progression of that business. Getting feedback is therefore really important to make people feel engaged and valued by the management. And if they're not getting that, then they might consider, well, maybe I can go to an organization which will value me, which will recognize me. And that value can come both privately in an appraisal meeting one-to-one, but also publicly in front of other people. And both of those will have slightly different emotional impacts. So feeling unrecognized and undervalued is a really important factor, possibly the number one factor that I've read in a variety of studies. The second thing is that people need to feel that they're making progress, that they're growing professionally, they're gaining more skills, they're developing themselves professionally in such a way that they can add more value to the business. Maybe they're preparing themselves for promotion, or they are getting promoted, and in some way there's some forward motion. In fact, a quote comes to mind is, "Happiness is progress." And even if that's not actually happening right now, if they have been able to sit down with the person that they report to, and that person has really asked them and listened to all their ambitions and their vision for their future, and then help them put together some sort of practical and actionable plan for them to make professional progress, then that's going to be a great thing. If that's not happening, then somebody will feel that I'm stuck where I am, I've been on this plateau for way too long, I'm not feeling any progress or growth, and therefore maybe the right answer is to move to another organization which will enable me to achieve that. Kind of related to that is the idea of comparison. So professionals are ambitious, they're highly competent, they're super intelligent, they're really good at what they do, and they're ambitious. And what can happen is that they can compare themselves to where their peer group has got to. Those peer group may be people doing similar jobs internally. It may be people that they knew and got on with and have stayed in touch with when they're at university. It might be colleagues who they used to work with who have gone to do same or similar jobs in other organizations. And so they find themselves asking, well, did that person get picked up first time to get promoted to VP or managing director or partner or whatever? Where am I relative to them? And so if you feel that there is a fear of falling behind, FOFB, fear of falling behind, that can be a massive motivator for people to consider where they are. And if they feel that the environment that they're in some way preventing that progress as compared to their peer group / competition, then that can be a really big factor as well. Next point is on people. And so we work with people, we spend our time with people, we spend an awful lot of time with our colleagues and our bosses and so on. So it's really important that we get on with them. And if it is that somebody is not gelling or getting on with their boss or their colleagues or whatever it may be, or it might be that there's just that one person who brings quite a toxic atmosphere to the workplace, then that can be really destructive. And so this person may choose to think, well, I just don't like like the people I'm working with, I don't share their values or their humor or anything about them, maybe I need to go and find an environment which better suits my personality and my character. So getting on with people is really important. The next point is on flexibility of working and work-life balance. So in terms of flexibility of working, obviously we had COVID and lockdown, and many people, in fact most people, learnt how to work in a different way. And so working from home has become fairly normal for many people, and that could be 1 or 2 days a week. If the company that you're working for doesn't allow that level of flexibility, then that can be a negative against it. Now, obviously, there are some jobs where you definitely need to be in the office 5 days a week from the opening of the markets until the end. Understand that. But also the degree of flexibility that other people have can be a factor. Allied to this is the idea of work-life balance. And there are many definitions for this, and this has been a concept that's been around for a long time. For me, what work-life balance means is that the hours that people are working are manageable. And so if someone is working long hours, well, we know that financial services people tend to work very long hours, and that's what people sign up for. That's understood. However, it can get to the point that people are being worked too hard and for too long in a sustained way, such that it becomes unsustainable and unhealthy, both mentally and physically. And that really has to be around the quality of the management who are ensuring that those people working on their projects or assignments or their day-to-day job, those activities are correctly staffed so that we're not asking people to work 12 hours, 16 hours a day. That's just too much. That people are being asked to work at a rate of manageable hours, whatever that may be, so that they can sustain that. And therefore it follows that if people are not being managed correctly and projects are not staffed properly in such a way that they can have those manageable hours, then people will often look to say, look, this is just getting unsustainable and intolerable. I need to go and find a better environment where things are correctly managed, correctly staffed. Next point is about engagement, and I may refer a little bit to the sense of feeling valued and feeling that you're recognized here, but engagement is the emotional commitment that someone has to the business. They believe in the mission of the firm, they believe in the management that are leading them, they believe in what they're doing, and they're committed to that and to their careers. And if you have that sense of emotional commitment to a job, then in many ways you're going to put up with a lot of stuff which is not necessarily perfect. If, however, someone becomes disengaged from what they're doing, they no longer get a sense of purpose or sense of fulfillment from what they're doing. They've lost sight of the reason why they got into that job anyway. They no longer believe in the mission and the management team because perhaps things have changed. Then that disengagement means that they lack that sense of fulfillment and joy in what they're doing, and may well go and look for somewhere else or something else to do which is going to fill them up emotionally in that way. On from that, then we talk about age, and age can be a trigger point for people to have a moment of self-reflection. And so quite often if there's a 0 on the end of an age, perhaps 40 or 50, that can be a moment for somebody to say, well, let me reassess where I am in my life, where I've got to in my personal life, where I've got to in my career. Maybe I need to have a bit of a rethink about where I am. And in fact, that's something that we tackle here at Career Mentor. We work with our clients to have a reassessment. Where are you in your life? Where are you in your career? What are the overarching career objectives that you want to achieve now? And is the blueprint that you have for that matching the actualities of how you're living and working at the moment? And if it's not, then let's create a plan to make sure that those two things are aligned so that you're working on purpose, you feel directed, you know that what you're doing is great. And in fact, we encourage our clients to reassess on a fairly frequent basis because we often need to course correct to keep us on target, and maybe that target shifts over time. So making sure that you recognize that sometimes age, especially if it has a 0 on the end, can be a moment to trigger a moment of self-reflection. Next point is around change. And so if things change in a business for whatever reason, it can be a great thing, it can be very positive, and it can be opportunity. But also things can change in a negative way. Those sorts of changes, positive or negative, can be if your firm gets acquired by another firm, or your firm acquires another organization, or perhaps a new management team comes in, and as a consequence the culture shifts, or whatever it may be, the strategy changing perhaps. All those changes can signal things moving in a good way or in a negative way. And obviously if they're moving in a negative way, then that may trigger somebody to think about, well, perhaps I need to move on. And some of the signals around that can be if senior and well-respected people in the organization, such as the head of sales, the CFO, the CIO, or whoever, decide to leave the organization, then it does prompt the question, well, what's going on at those senior levels that have prompted that? Maybe I need to pay close attention to see if it's now time for me to consider making a change and exiting this business. Final thing to talk about is pay. Now, pay can get quite complicated, and this is an area where I draw upon my 22 years experience in executive search. Key thing to think about pay is a couple of things. First is that in many ways pay is a reflection on how well valued that person is in the organization. And here we go back to the very first point that I made. So if someone is being well paid and well rewarded, that is a good sign that they are valued and they are well recognized in that organization, and the reverse is true. And so for an individual to understand how well they're being paid relative to their colleagues doing similar jobs, and also relative to what they could command in the marketplace outside their firm, that's a real indicator that maybe you are being undervalued, or maybe that you are taken for granted. And especially if you find out that you've been paid consistently base salary, let's say 5 or 10% below what your colleagues or the market have been paid over the last 3 or 4 years, well, that could be a real good sign that it may be time to consider making a move, especially if you consider that calculation around pay as the last thing of all these other things, or some of those other things being present as well. I hope you found that useful. I'll be putting the blog that I've written about this in the comments below. And if you want to have a chat about all or any of these particular factors, or your career and where you've got to, or perhaps you're engaged in a job search right now, then please do reach out. All my contact details are at the top of my LinkedIn profile in the contact info section. If you feel that this video deserves a good thumbs up, then please do click that. It really does help with the algorithm, so I ask you to do that. And if, by the way, you think this could be relevant for somebody who you know, then please do feel free to share it. And thanks very much.